Hi friends, it's Pastor Amanda, and today we are talking about three of the parables that Jesus tells, and all three of these parables are told in succession in the book of Luke. Before we get into the parables, I hope you have a little background on what a parable is, but oftentimes Jesus uses parables, these stories, to teach important lessons. They teach lessons about God. They teach lessons about the kingdom of God. And also Jesus uses these parables to rebuke false teachings or to challenge people. And that is important because that is exactly what Jesus is doing today. All three of these parables that Jesus tells are about loss. And Jesus speaks these parables right after the Pharisees begin to criticize Jesus. You see, Jesus is hanging out with a bunch of people that the Pharisees consider to be less than, to be sinners. And they call Jesus out for doing this. They criticize him for eating with what they call sinners and outcasts. And so that is the beginning of this portion of Luke, where Jesus goes into telling three parables about loss, about being lost in succession. So Jesus is there. He's sitting with these outcasts. The Pharisees come and they start to ridicule him. And Jesus' response is quite interesting because what was meant to be a slur from the Pharisees to Jesus, Jesus actually took as a compliment. It is well documented that Jesus spent considerable amounts of time with those that are considered outcasts by the Jewish society. And so when the Pharisees thought that they were like, hey, you're hanging out with those losers, Jesus was not at all ashamed by his associations with these people, because that is exactly who Jesus is. Jesus is someone who comes for all people. Jesus' ministry is about those people who the rest of the world calls less than. And our author of this book, Luke, so Luke is our author, so much of what Luke writes about includes stories of people who are neglected, people who are forgotten, they're ignored, they're lost. Luke writes about women because women were second-class citizens back in Jesus' time. So he writes about women. He writes about beggars, lost sons, widows. And this really shows, first of all, Luke's compassion and empathy toward these common people. And also it shows Luke's desire to show this particular side of Jesus' ministry. And it's this side of Jesus' ministry that reminds us that Jesus came for all people. So for the purpose of time, I am not going to go into the specifics of each one of these parables because you can do that on your own as you read through these. But I want you to notice some similarities in structure to get a glimpse of how Jesus is teaching and how Jesus is trying to make his point. So we have three different stories, and all of them have this in common: being lost, being found, followed by great joy in heaven. So as you're reading through these, you're going to see in verse 6, we hear, "Rejoice for me, I have found my sheep, which was lost." Verse 9, "Rejoice with me, for I have found the coin, which I had lost." And verse 24, "The son of mine was dead and has come to life again. He was lost and has been found." And they began to be merry. A lost and found sheep and a party, a lost and found coin and a party, a lost and found son and a party. So why use the theme of lostness? Well, there are many who feel lost, whether it is someone maybe who's homeless, someone who is struggling with addiction, someone who is being abused or neglected in some way. All those lost, Jesus seeks daily in different ways. This idea of being lost is common throughout all of humanity, whether we feel lost spiritually or whether we feel lost because of the circumstances that we are in, feeling cut off from love, feeling cut off from God's love or love of people around us. The story that Jesus presents with the theme of lostness, well, they assure us that God is going to pursue us like a shepherd, leaving his flock to find the one lonely lost sheep. Jesus is going to pursue us like the old widow who turns her house upside down to find her one small, insignificant coin. This means that not one of us is insignificant to God. All of these parables come back to God's value in each one of us and the value of relationships. So Jesus values relationship and then also the need for restoration when our relationships are broken or divided or those relationships are lost. And Luke 15 and these parables are all about the love of God coming into our communities, our cities, our churches. This love of God that seeks us out relentlessly. These parables also give us a glimpse of Jesus Christ and Jesus' ministry 2,000 years ago, but also today. And I think one of the first reasons that these parables are so important to us is that they do give us this glimpse into the essence of Jesus. We are invited to see Jesus for who Jesus is. Jesus did not end these parables with the words, "Go and do likewise," although we hope we do. The author, Luke, did not end this chapter with the words, "Go and imitate Jesus," because while those are good pieces of advice, that's not necessarily the point. The primary point of these parables is to point us to Jesus and to tell us, look at Jesus. Look at how he lives. Look at what Jesus says. Consider Jesus's actions. Get to know Jesus. Learn who this person is that we say we trust and love and worship. When we read these parables, we're able to soak in the shadow of Jesus. We're able to saturate our souls with the ways of Jesus. It's like watching him, listening to him, standing in awe of him, and letting Jesus overwhelm us with the way he is. When we see that Jesus is the shepherd pursuing that one sheep, or Jesus is that widow who's searching for that one seemingly unnecessary coin, and seeing Jesus as that gracious father opening his arms to the son who doesn't necessarily deserve to be welcomed back. But we get a glimpse as to who Jesus is, who this person is that we worship. And we also recognize that no matter what happens in our life, we are never too insignificant for Jesus to seek us. And even if we are indifferent to Jesus's love or we ignore Jesus's message, Jesus is still seeking us out and is hopeful for those moments when he can welcome us with open arms and a big party. Well, we could study these parables for hours. We don't have that kind of time. But I do have some questions that you can consider with your groups. Question number 1. Why do you think it was so important for Jesus to tell these parables as he confronted the Pharisees? And what is Jesus trying to teach or confront the Pharisees about? That's question one. Second question that I have is, what might it mean to be lost today? Or what might it mean to be a lost person to God or Jesus today? And have you ever felt a little bit lost in your faith or your relationship with Jesus? And what did that look like? And what did it feel like? And your third question is, in what ways does Jesus go searching for those who are lost or distant from him today? What might that look like? How does Jesus seek us out today?